For fans of The Sopranos, the topic of which character was the first rat is a highly debated and often discussed subject. The critically acclaimed series, which aired from 1999 to 2007, has captivated audiences with its complex characters, intricate storylines, and gritty portrayal of the New Jersey Mafia. Throughout the show's 6 seasons, numerous characters are suspected and killed for betraying the family. But which one was the first to break the code of silence and cooperate with the FBI? This video will examine the evidence and arguments surrounding this topic, and attempt to answer the question, who was the first rat in The Sopranos? Let's start with the obvious one, Jimmy Altieri. Jimmy's the first one to get killed for being a rat, except for Febby Petrulio, of course. But he was not an active informant at the time Tony got his hands on him. Tony first became suspicious of Jimmy when he and Tony were in the basement. Jimmy had just been released on bail suspiciously early and brings up the stolen Colombian money twice, and asks Tony what he's gonna do with it. There's really no reason for Jimmy to care so much about that, but there's a very good reason for the FBI to care. Jimmy's body language when taking up the subject, and the fact that he comes back to it after Tony ignores him at first, makes him look really guilty. And this scene is consistent with what we hear from Junior after one of the meetings, about Jimmy constantly bringing up old stuff. Plus, the fact that Jimmy also knew about a new forensic technique that lifts fingerprints from money. What sets Jimmy apart from the rest of the informants, though, is that Jimmy is never actually seen giving any information to the FBI. It's possible that David Chase's intention behind this choice was to create a connection between the audience and Tony's tough situation, to put us in his shoes, so to speak. But it's also possible that the reason we never see it is because it never happened. Jimmy never comes off as the smartest of the bunch, and there are other situations before he gets arrested, where he says ridiculous things like when he suggests that Junior should go to war during a dinner meeting. But was Jimmy just a fall guy? When the corrupt police detective Vin Makazian tells Tony that Pussy is an informant, Tony's head is desperate to disprove it, and when he finds out that the detective owes Pussy $30,000, Tony suddenly has 2 plausible excuses for Pussy's innocence. The first one being that Makazian tried to frame Pussy so he didn't have to pay him. The second excuse was the one that put the final nail in Jimmy's coffin, that the detective had mixed up Jimmy with Pussy due to their physical similarities. Makazian jumps off a bridge before Tony has the opportunity to clear up the truth to any of these theories. And of course, Tony wanted it to be Jimmy, and so did we. So Jimmy might have been a victim of good old-fashioned confirmation bias. We saw what we wanted to see. Tony's worst nightmare was the thought of his best friend betraying him, and he avoided the truth as long as he could. And Jimmy ate the pill so Pussy could live for another season. Nevertheless, the Jimmy plot provides an interesting contrast between the way a rat would normally be treated. Jimmy, shot in the back of the head, then dumped in an alley with a rat in the mouth, and then Pussy, one last tearful drink with the boys on the boat. But what are the chances that there were 2 black-haired, obese informants operating at the same time? They both had access to roughly the same information, so from the FBI's perspective, it seems a bit over the top. How many informants did the FBI really need? Theoretically, if the FBI had succeeded in collecting enough evidence to put Tony, Junior, and the rest of their associates away in prison, they would have to give witness protection to at least as many as 3 informants: Jimmy, Pussy, and the man holding the record for longest-serving rat, Ray Curto. So when did they turn informants? If Jimmy really was an informant at all, it probably wasn't for long. The only thing indicating that he was turned before the gun charges is in a conversation Tony has with Junior when he gets permission to get rid of Jimmy. Here Junior mentions that Jimmy always seems to bring up old stuff, and he then agrees that he should be taken out. So what about Ray? We don't see when Ray is turned, but coincidentally enough, in the same episode as Jimmy's arrested, Ray is too. Ray gets arrested when he's visiting a brothel, so this looks to be an obvious starting point for his rat side hustle. But he isn't revealed to be a rat until episode 2 in the 3rd season. Pussy, on the other hand, might have been turned long before the show even started. In Season 3, Episode 10, Tony has flashbacks to the winter holidays of 1995 when he first noticed Pussy was acting strange. But this doesn't make sense when thinking about it. In Season 1, we see Pussy burning documents in his backyard, and if he was ratting at this time, he wouldn't have any reason to be concerned about that. Furthermore, Pussy's FBI handler at one point comments that Puss has been our tit since '98. So Tony's flashback is probably just a case of him overthinking and being paranoid again. So to put it in order, Pussy turned rat in '98 at the latest after being busted for his heroin side gig, and Jimmy, assuming he actually was a rat, turned at about the same time as Ray, which was a year later in '99. So this makes Pussy the Sopranos' first rat. What do you think? Was Jimmy a rat at all? Did Pussy start ratting in '95? And when did Ray turn? Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments below.